Yo, what's going on, Facebook? What's going on? This your boy Steve Belcher, and welcome to a brand new episode of Smashing Kidney Disease. It is awesome to be back on air since last Thursday. As some of you know, I have recently relocated back to the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. As you can see behind me, my setup is not the same as it normally is. I'm in the kitchen of my parents' home doing this show while the place where I will be residing is being prepared for me. So tonight we have an awesome show. This guest was on Sisters Against Kidney Disease with Sorrel some time back. And now tonight she's on Smashing Kidney Disease to share her story of kidney disease and also her recent issue with one of her transplant centers. You're going to hear the 411, know what's going on. So without further ado, let me bring my guest all the way from Baltimore, Maryland, USA, which is right down the street from where I am, but all the way from Baltimore, Maryland, for those of you who may be out of the state of Maryland. Let me bring on my guest and the lovely Tracy Tittle. Hey, Tracy, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, it's great to have you back on. I didn't get a chance to interview you um, when you was on Sorrel's show since then. But how's everything been going with dialysis and just in life in general since that interview?
Well, a lot have changed since our last interview. I do have a donor. It is crazy. I do have a donor. He's 18 years old. We went through all the process for 2.5 months for a transplant. My son is in his last year of high school, and the only thing he wanted to get done for his birthday, which was back in August, he didn't want a birthday present. He wanted to give his mother a transplant.
Wow.
We are
Wow.
on the list. We are on the list for University of Maryland, and something happened after the whole process that still have me blown away.
And what was that?
My son is legally 18. So
Okay.
technically, he's an adult. He signed all his consent papers. He did their 2.5 months testing. We got to the part. The last phase was the donors program, which he attended. He did everything that they needed to move forward with a transplant. So they indicate to us that we have meetings every Wednesday to discuss all of the donors and the recipients. And from there, they'll make a decision on whether we need more testings or what date are you guys looking to do a transplant. We waited out that last Wednesday. On Thursday, my son got a call from his donor coordinator and indicate to him we would like, or it is suggested that you finish high school before you can do a transplant.
Uh-oh. We may have. There you go.
Yeah, so
So you froze up, Tracy. What did they say?
they're suggesting that my son, who is the legal donor, who have done the test, who is a perfect match,
Mm.
suggesting that I wait to have a transplant after my son is done with high school.
Did they say any reason why they wanted to wait while he was finished with high school and
They
maybe not?
suggest
Go
they
ahead. I'm sorry.
suggested they suggested that it's it would not be fair to have a transplant now to speak with the donor coordinator. And I said, is any way can we appeal this decision? And she says, no, this is what the board is recommending or suggesting.
Now, you had mentioned, we talked last week, and one thing that you raised, which I found very interesting, is that you said, what if he dropped out of school?
Yeah, so I said in an email to the coordinators, I said, so what if he drops out of school and said, look, my mom life is more important than finish my year of high school? And she indicated she didn't have an answer for me. I was very frustrated because going through the process, when he did the first thing he had to do was the questionnaire. It indicates, are you in school, you're employed, you're self-employed, you're unemployed. He put in high school, last year of high school. Through doing the process, he talked to his coordinator, and she called him sometimes when he was in class. But
Mm.
he still step aside and talk to her. I indicate to them also, I said, you guys are not being real with this, because my son was looking forward to do this. We already went to his school, and there's a program which is called Homebound. Medical emergencies like these. A certified teacher would come to the house daily for 3 to 4 hours a day. I even indicate that. So he wouldn't really miss a whole lot of his schoolwork. The last thing I suggested to her, I said, okay, look, as much as I want a transplant, I'm willing to wait for the Christmas holiday, because the Christmas holiday would be 2 weeks off. Their downtime are 2 to 4 weeks. So he wouldn't have really missed that 2 weeks. If he had anything, it would be a week. He will have been home and a teacher coming to the house. She said, well, that's their final decision.
Yeah, she didn't have nothing to say with that. Let me ask you, do you think it's more to it than just waiting till after high school? Do you think this could be, I hate to say it, but I want to say it, racially motivated?
I think it is. I think it is. I'm trying not to. And like I said at the beginning, I am disappointed because I have been with University of Maryland for shoo number of years. My kids were born at the hospital. After the kids, I followed their transplant team. They know every time I come into the hospital, they know over the past 3 years how crucial it was for them to keep asking me, are you on the list? Or is people getting tested? Now we finally got a good donor who is my son, who is medically fine. They dropped the bomb on me.
Mm. I never heard of that.
Me
Uh,
either.
so, have you decided to go with a different program, transplant program?
I decided that I'm going to go to another hospital. We have evaluation coming up, and they have also heard of the situation just happened with the other hospital. They are not objective. They don't think that that is going to be a problem, but
Hmm.
we really looking forward to do this again. It's crazy. We did testings for 2.5 months, literally. It's a
Hmm.
process. It's not that you just get up and say you want to be a donor. It's a process, and we follow the process to the end.
Do you think if they had those concerns that should have been talked about in the early stages of the
Oh,
process?
definitely. I suggested to the coordinator they need to revision that questionnaire, and they need to put that a part of their questionnaire, so no one go through the process that we went through, the complete process, just to hear, well, we're suggesting you do a transplant next summer. Like,
Hmm.
really?
Yeah. Yeah. So Tracy, with that being said, can you just take us back to how your journey started with kidney disease?
Well, my journey started years ago. Like when I was 14 years old, I was diagnosed with streptococcal glomerulonephritis, which is strep throat. That's how I lost my kidneys. I lost my kidneys because of strep. By time, the doctors figure out, okay, hey, there's something wrong, and they do a biopsy, my kidneys were completely gone at 15.
Mm.
I had my lungs collapsed. Well, I'm going to back up. I was a patient of John Hopkins pediatric, and it's literally, you can consider this family was a live-in family, because I would get out today, Tuesday, I'll be back on Thursday, then I'll get sent home on Sunday and be back the next week Tuesday, and that went on for a year and a half until my donor, who was 14 at that time, donated
Wait a
her
minute. Wait a minute.
kidney.
You had a donor 14 at the
Yes.
time of your transplant.
Yes, my
And
sister was 14 and I was 16 when the transplant took place.
and now they're talking about waiting
Yeah.
to your son who is 18
Yes.
and want him to wait to graduation to
Yeah.
donate.
Yes.
That does
But I'm going to clear, my transplant was done in Kingston, Jamaica. It wasn't
okay.
done in the United States. And technically, we didn't go through all this process we're going through now with the hospital. All they knew that they had a 16-year-old who needed a transplant like right now, and that's where they were more focused on. She
Hmm.
did all the lab work that they needed, and she was a perfect match. And that kidney
Wow.
lasts me for about 25 and a half years with two teenagers now,
That's
20
awesome.
and 18 years. So
How's your
yes,
sister doing?
organ donation save lives.
How's your sister?
My sister is perfect. She's a gymnast. She's always always in the gym.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. She's doing perfect. She has a son. He's 20 years old.
Hmm. So, how long have you been on dialysis since your last transplant?
3.5 years now.
Okay, so when you first got transplanted, were you on dialysis?
I was on hemo, and hemo wasn't working out because every time I went on the machine, after 10 minutes, I go unconscious and they got to stop the machine because I'm out. And it happened all the time I'm on the machine. So they eventually said, we are going to try PD.
Yeah, you can keep that light on. Okay.
They were going to try PD. I did PD, but I had peritonitis a lot. So they yanked that and said that they're going to do hemo. It's worked for a little bit, and I think after that it was transplants. But I didn't do well on hemo
Hmm.
when I was on my first time around with kidney disease.
Sure. And that was in Kingston, Jamaica?
That was done in Kingston, Jamaica. Yes.
Right. Is the treatment in Jamaica a lot different? I mean, we know dialysis is the same, but is the care and the delivery of care, is it different?
It's hard for me to say because number one, I'm not Jamaican. I'm from another island. But my island could not perform a biopsy, needless a transplant at that time. So I was flown to Jamaica. Yes, I mean I was there probably for 2 months, but I was in a private hospital. So I'm not. The care was, it was good. It has to
Hmm.
be good because then look at me now. This doctor, so many years, saved my life. So
Absolutely.
they're on the right track. The transplants that from what I've learned when I was there, they have done a lot of cadavers. I was the first living related kidney transplant that ever got performed in Kingston, Jamaica.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't even know you the
Yeah,
first one.
I was the first one. The
So you in the medical in the medical books.
Right. The medical team, the Department of Health, they came to the hospital to do an interview with us. It was in the Gleaner newspaper because they have never done a living related kidney transplant. So the head over the health department came to the hospital to see us. I
That's
talked
awesome.
to the surgeon a couple years ago. Now and then I would check in with him, and I think the last time I spoke to him, he was now head over the transplant committee. He remembered very well who I was.
That's
But
awesome.
yes,
Hmm. Have you spoke to any other professionals just to get a sense of what university decisions was? Have you gotten any other opinions of if this was something that they normally do or something they never heard of before?
it is so hard for me to talk to anybody there because they will say to me, "It's a HIPAA law, and we can't say anything to you." Even my son, when he got on the phone and he tried to talk to the coordinator, and she was sticking to that gun. They're suggesting he waits for completion of high school before a transplant. Now, I have talked to my nephrologist at the center, and he said, "This is crazy. You literally turning down a potential candidate. How do you come with these decisions? This
Yeah,
is not no way written in their policy. This is something that they are suggesting. They're suggesting he do more testings and he would be able to do a transplant next year, summer."
do you think that it almost sounds like they're trying to stall a process?
I
I
don't know.
mean,
I look at this. I look at this as a legal standpoint, but how can you try to implement a legal standpoint that is not written in your process? It's supposed to be somewhere in your process. You shouldn't let this turn you down from trying to save somebody's life, knowing very well this is the hospital that I go to. I got a cut on my finger. I'm at university. I'm just lost. Last week I was so devastated because I'm looking to hear, okay, everything is good. What are the dates they have? Not to hear, well, we're suggesting he done high school before doing any surgery.
yeah, yeah. I'm still dumbfounded. I mean, especially when I look on Facebook and certain groups, and you hear people's story, or they written it where I had an instance with Jared Brown. He knows someone that they did the testing in one day. I that's incredible. How can you do transplant testing all in one day,
Right,
opposed to someone else taking? I mean, I know there are certain tests that has to be done. Some people may
right.
not be available on a particular day, but in one day, where other places some people may have to wait months just to get scheduled, it just doesn't sound right to me.
I even said, you know what? Let me try another hospital. I called John Hopkins. You know what they said to me? For me to even get an evaluation, that will be sometime next year, January or February. They're all booked up.
Mm,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Yep. For me to get an appointment, they're all booked up.
Now, it, I, I don't even know where to start. Is that kind of unheard of for a hospital to be booked up when there's other hospitals, in the area that do the surgery? Like, I guess in Baltimore is University or John Hopkins, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
University is one of the top best hospital for kidney transplants. I met a family who were from York, PA last Thursday, and they had a situation where Hopkins indicate to the recipient that the man is too old for a transplant.
Mm.
I said, "What?" They said exactly that. He has kidney disease. This would be his second transplant. Um, his kids, his oldest son donated the first kidney. Then he's in renal failure. So his last son is giving him a kidney. They indicate to the family that he is too old for a transplant.
So they're not going to transplant him.
They said, forget that. They called University of Maryland. That's how I got to meet them at the donors day. And university said, we're going to do a transplant. So these are just the crazy things that happen. I don't know who sits on the board and make these decisions. I would think you have a donor, you have a healthy donor, a donor with is so young who are willing to donate, and you shut that down. You completely
Absolutely.
shut it down.
It almost sounds like each center has their own criteria on what they will and what they won't do. And I don't think that's right when you have people who waiting to get transplant or people who want to donate and they put these little idiosyncrasy uh, uh, roadblocks in a person's way.
Yeah, I don't know. But like I said, I'm kind of disappointed because they have my medical history and they know how important it is.
Hmm.
Maybe they don't think I deserve to have it like right now. Maybe I need to be coming back in the hospital like I was for a whole year and a half, where I was literally in there every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks working on my arm, trying to get access for dialysis. I
Wait,
don't I don't know what it is.
do that. Let me ask you this. That being said, what you just said, I mean, do you think that sometimes that you know if you get the transplant that you won't be coming back as often, um, as like you just mentioned being in the hospital, because again, you you would think that all lights, everything would be a go if you, like you say,
Right,
you have an 18-year-old who's
right.
willing to donate. They know right from wrong. They sound mind. Last year in high school, and you even have paperwork from the school saying that they would send out certified teachers,
Mm-hmm.
even in that case. Now, what if the tables were turned? What if your son needed a kidney and he was in high school? They would take him out of school and let that transplant happen.
Correct. And his downtime would have been 6 to 8 weeks. Six, and that is 6 to 8 weeks with everything going great for him. I guess they don't look at it like that.
Hmm.
I don't know. I kind of turned the table a couple times and I was like, well, what if he had dropped out of school? What if he said, okay, fine, I'm dropping out of school to do this transplant. I can pick back up on my grade because I'm in the last year of high school. Just like you have a student drops out, she's pregnant, she's not able to go to school. They do accept her after she's she has this baby. So I can't understand why this 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 was a decision that they could have come to.
Sure. How does your son feel about this? What is his thoughts?
Disappointed,
Mm-hmm.
disappointed.
Wow.
So
So this hasn't affected his concentration with school, has it?
no, he
Mm-hmm.
still goes to school. He's doing fine. This was something that he wanted to do. This was something that he decided that he wanted to do. This is something that we talked about it. We constantly talk about it. Are you okay? How are you doing in school? Do you think you need some therapy? Still trying to process to him, this is what I want to do, mom.
Right. Right. Now, have you heard, other than the story that you heard with the gentleman that Hawkins said was too old to transplant, have you heard any other stories from anyone you may know who may be on the transplant list, or other kidney patients that had problems with University or Hopkins
Uh-huh.
transplant?
No. The crazy thing to this, when you go to the evaluation process, you meet all sorts of people coming all sorts all over the US to University of Maryland. I've met families. I met a family. They were from they said they went to Mayo Clinic, but they were so booked up. Somebody told them about University of Maryland, and they drove all the way there from up there to come here. They come from all parts of the state. And what I can't understand is you're turning folks down. You have more people on dialysis than you have more kidney donors stepping up to save somebody's life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just crazy. Like I was saying last week, Sunday the 6th was the kidney walk. And I never understand how is it that they publicize Susan Coleman walk, lupus, autism, all of these different organizations. But you will never hear on the news they say, well, it's the kidney walk day is coming up. It's not broadcast. And so many folks have kidney disease that don't know they got kidney disease.
Mm-hmm.
And it just hit me out the water, because you see these organizations on TV trying to raise money for everything for the organization. I've never heard of them talking about kidney disease or publicizing, well, there's a war coming up and we would like you to come out. It's not publicized like that. And
No,
it's so
absolutely.
sad.
It makes you think that there's some type of agenda going on where you don't want people to hear the information uh, to know that this disease is the ninth leading cause of death in the United States.
Right.
Uh, I had a comment from one of the viewers, Jared Brown, host of Warriors Quest, says, this process reminds me of the college admissions process. Each university has its own conditions and stipulations. It must be more streamlined so it's the same at each hospital. What do you think about that?
That is absolutely correct. If it's something, like I said, if it's something that they kind of have, maybe they have done a couple of transplants with a couple young ones and situation happen. If that's the case, it needs to be in the first thing you got to do is the questionnaire process. It should be stated in the process. If you are in high school, or even though you're of the age limit 18, you must complete high school. Then we will know not to go through with process. It's a
Mm-hmm.
2.5 months process. When it's not 2 Saturdays in a row, we had to be at the lab so early Saturday morning. They open up 7 o'clock. We were in the lab at that time. Then he had to do a 24-hour urine. So at that point, he had to stay home from school. So
Mm.
if we had known all of this from the jump, we wouldn't have wasted time with University of Maryland. We could have been somewhere else. We could have been in Hopkins.
Wow. That is ridiculous. All like you said, a waste of time when if you would have known that in the beginning,
Correct.
a lot of that could have been avoided.
Right.
And I also agree with you that it should be the same at each hospital. Some type of a standard, like you said, questionnaire, even though each hospital is independent. However, when it comes to kidney transplants or maybe any type of transplant and looking for a donor, things should be aligned the same because they put so much emphasis on getting a transplant,
Mm-hmm.
and then once you find someone to donate, then some people everything goes smooth like clockwork, and then with
Yeah.
some, like in your situation, there's nothing medically um wrong with your son to have him do this transplant, other than someone, a part of this committee or group, think that it's a bad idea to do it while he's still in school. Because like you said, there's no official document or anything stating a policy pertaining to 18-year-olds that are still in school. So for this decision to be based on whoever, it had to originate from somebody, and then the rest of the people agree. Who knows, the
But
surgeon.
look at this scenario. When he's done with high school, he's going into college. So are you not thinking he's going to be down for college too? You see what I'm saying? You got to
Mm-hmm.
look at this. He's going to college after high school. So you don't think at that time, according to them, we don't want him to be stressed out about the transplant. But what about him going into college? He's going to be stressed out too, if that's the way they want to put it.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So maybe they're not thinking he want to go to high school.
You mean
Maybe,
college?
yeah, maybe college. Maybe they think you don't want to go to college.
Yeah, that would be stereotypical thinking.
I just hate the fact that me as the recipient, I have no say in this, and the fact that they made it to where you can't write to the doctors, you can write to nobody on that committee. It's crazy. We're not allowed to appeal, so I can't write no letters and ask, talk to them. Maybe if they would have liked to hear from the donor, get a prospective part across. But the good thing was to have an appointment so I could come. I know it's a HIPAA privacy for a lot of stuff.
And even you're the mother and you still can't.
Right.
That is crazy.
I've never heard that. I was so excited. So excited. And, every time he called, he said, Mom, everything looks great. They called, my labs look great. I wouldn't think that I'd be sitting here now trying to go to another hospital. I didn't even have another hospital on my radar. University was it.
And so that means that the other hospital that you go to, now you got to take time off. Your son got to miss some
We got to do
school.
this process all over again. Even though he's going to sign a release of records, they're saying that we can still do that, but we got testing that we would like to do on our own here. And I'm fine with that. I was thinking, you know what, cut down some of this time. All the lab records are with them. You get a release and you get that, and we should move forward. But they're requesting an evaluation on me and a revaluation on him. So we just got to do this process all over again.
Wow. Wow. But does it look more promising?
It does. It actually does, because I did speak to the coordinator and the recipient coordinator. So she's my coordinator. I did indicate my situation and where we are coming from another hospital. And she said, only thing we want to do, we are going to, let him complete the questionnaire, which he already did. They're going to reach out to him from a donor coordinator, and then they would make appointments for him to come in to get evaluated.
Mm. Wow.
So
Well,
with us knowing this now, definitely when we go for evaluation, it's going to be made mention. So you don't come like, well, wait a minute, we didn't know this. Nobody told us this. That was one
mhm.
thing I stipulated when I spoke to them. And that's one thing he said. We don't want to be wasting no more time just going from hospital to hospital to get a transplant. Really? I could understand if we didn't have a donor. You got a donor.
You got a donor, and now that you got a donor, they're playing games
Yeah.
and making this happen.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this: someone who's watching right now and is thinking about getting on the list, or maybe they may have a family member that want to donate, what would you suggest to them?
Get all the facts before going in.
Mm-hmm.
Get all their facts and their stipulations. That's the only thing you can do. I mean, I thought I did a good thing. We waited till he was legally 18 because that's the law in the United States. But we never thought that we'd waited for him again to finish high school.
Mm.
I
So it
don't get
almost
it.
sounds like I said before, it's like they want you to wait for him to donate at the high school, but yet if the tables were turning, if he needed an organ and if you wanted to donate to him, they would probably let that process go through.
Correct. I had a donor, a potential donor, a couple months ago. They got as far as, I call it the second to last test in the whole process. And she called me and she said they indicate something is wrong in her blood or in her urine. So she wasn't a good candidate. My heart fell to the floor again. But within that process time, I still was looking forward and counting on my 17-year-old to turn 18. And I kept saying, you know what, my son gonna be 18 in the summer. He gonna be 18 in August. We got there and look at where we are now.
Mm.
Trying to find another hospital that would do a transplant and not put the bureaucracy in it and talk about, well, he need to be finished with high school. Like, really? This is somebody's life. How
Uh,
you know I can wait until next year? How you know the nights that I come off of that chair, I hear you got to sit down for another couple of hours because your pressure is down in the 60s. It's just crazy that at no point somebody on that team to say, you know what, we need to get the records from her dialysis center. We need to know how she's doing on the machine.
Absolutely,
You
absolutely.
just can't look at the person and said, okay, we're gonna push this back for another 5-6 months when you don't know nothing about how I do when I'm on the machine. So it should have been a situation where, okay, let's hear from the donor. You should not have a situation to say like, oh, well, you gotta wait. You can't say you gotta wait and don't know what I go through.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Hmm.
lots of times I go in there and not able to be dialyzed because my arm clots off. That happens because I have a clotting deficiency. And because of that, my blood could be too thick or it could be too thin. So it's a situation where we gotta do this, and we gotta do this now. But
Oh,
I don't
I
know
agree
how
with
they
you,
come.
Tracy.
I don't know how they come up with this.
Yeah, I definitely feel your pain, and it's just angry to hear this and to let people know that when you hear transplant, it doesn't. With some people, it just doesn't go like one, two, three. There's always got to be some type of hiccup along the way that really doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Especially in your case, it doesn't make any sense at all. Um, Especially when you hear when people get three, four, transplants or right back on the list after or a minute. So for something like this to happen to you, to me, is a grave injustice.
It is. It is. Like I said, like it's not like my nephrologist or my dialysis center that knows exactly what his patient go through when she's on dialysis. He's not even a part of the committee. So who is there talking for the recipient?
Mm,
I don't, this is all about the donor, but who is there talking for the recipient? And then, like I said, you come up with this clause. Well, we suggest he finish high school. You suggest he finish high school, but I want to still live to see my son graduate high school.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I don't know. I'm just, like I said, just devastated when I heard this crap.
Hmm.
And it was just not like a person just walk in. I went into their hospital. This is a hospital that I go for every darn thing. All of these doctors are in the hospital. So the hospital have a long record about me.
Hmm.
Like I said, who talked for the recipient?
For the recipient.
Who talked for me? I can't even talk to nobody there. Because then they come in and say, well, it's a HIPAA clause. We can't talk to you. You would have to talk through your donor. My donor is my son.
Right. Right. Now, let me ask you this. What do you think that could possibly start to be done to try to change these type of decisions? I
Like I
mean, where you
said,
don't have no, you can't even appeal, so
correct.
people can hear your story. Where do you think we can start where we can make sure that somebody hears this?
This is something that would consider of their team for their donors day and their evaluation day. The evaluation day is for us, the recipient. We see the transplant surgeon, we see the nephrologist, the dietitian, the the financial person,
Mm-hmm.
all these people and all this testing we got to do to be evaluated. So on the donors day, it's the same process. The donors come in and they see all of these people. You have a social worker who talks to the person, just trying to get a psychological standpoint with
Sure.
where this person at with doing a transplant, and I get explaining to him what is entailed in the transplant. They need to have a committee that that represent the recipients. It could be a doctor, the doctor that is followed at the center, because anybody who gonna know about the patient is the doctor. And donors must have some sort of say in it. It should be a process where we are able to write a letter and you actually look at the letter and you read it. And some, yes, you might say yes, and some you may say no about. But to shut us down and like, well, you can't appeal this process. This is made by a committee. This sounds like it's made in stone.
Yeah, every
At
situation is
one point,
different.
at one point, do they ever bend the rule or they bend the rule for some folks and don't bend it for others.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they do.
It's
I'm sure
crazy.
they
I'm
do.
sure it is too. I'm sure. And just like what you said before, is you want to think now, is race has something to do with it? Maybe I'm not white and got money. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm just lost in transition.
Yeah. Uh, I definitely have you in thoughts and prayers, and maybe university may not have been, if you look at this from a spiritual perspective, Tracy, maybe university may not have been
The
the
option.
right one,
Yeah.
and you may have to go through this to get to the right one.
Yeah.
You never know why God has these things planned out, because evidently, I'm sure you hear this a lot. I mean, if I saw you on the street and the pictures I see of you, you don't even look like you on dialysis. I know you hear that a lot.
Yeah. And first thing the person said, I didn't know you were sick. If you didn't tell me, I wouldn't have known. I said, yeah. And you know what I look at, how I look at it? I've been going through this from 14 years out. 14 years old. I was in high school when I lost my kidneys. I was living in the islands and they didn't even have a nephrologist person there to do no kidney biopsy or anything. I flew to Hopkins, and when I went to Hopkins, it was the doctor said to my mom, "You had brought this child in the next day, she would have been dead."
Mm,
My kidneys was long gone, poisoning my blood. My blood was looking like a dark cherry. By
wow.
that time, it was too late. My kidneys were already gone. And for what we went through that 2 years, it was, it's lots of times where they don't know if I'm going to make it. On my 16th birthday, my lungs collapsed. They had to rush me to ICU.
Mm.
16 years
I'm
old.
sure that was frightening.
Oh, you 16 years old, you're in the peak of high school. Everything is just, you're a teenager. And my 2 years was living in Hopkins. My family had badges that said living patient. That's because they were able to come to the hospital at 2 o'clock in the morning if need be without being stopped.
Right.
And that's how my kidney disease started. So by the time we figure out, my kidneys were gone. I had a special room in on the pediatric floor. A special room. I had a big ear bed because I went from 125 to 300 in fluid.
Mm.
There was so much fluid on me that my skin started popping out to get that fluid released.
Right. Wow. Like
So,
stretching.
yeah, they moved me to Mount Washington. I caught pneumonia and they had to flew me back over to John Hopkins. At that time,
Wow.
they tried everything. The team that I had, matter of fact, the doctor that I had from John Hopkins, she's now head over the kidney nephrology department over at John Hopkins. She doesn't see patients no more. I went to see her a couple years ago and I said to her, she remembered clearly who I was. Uh, I said to her, I have 2 kids. I told her my age, they're healthy. And she said, wow, we hugged. Periodically, I touch bases with her, but they remember us pretty well.
Hmm. Do you think that people who may hear your story and hear what's happened to you uh, through the university could get discouraged to get on the transplant list because of little hiccups like this?
I pray not. I pray it's like something where if you're going through the same process I am going through, trying to get a donor and get a donor tested, make sure you ask all of the questions. because this was not one question that we asked about doing it. We thought because he was of age, he's legally of age.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
Didn't even
But
think about the high school component part.
no, we talked about how can I get him schooled, homeschooled. And actually, one of my girlfriend is a teacher in Houston, and she suggested to me there's a program. You have to go to the school, talk to the principal, and see what information you can get from there. And that's exactly what I did. The lady gave me the form. She said, fill it out, have the doctors fill it out. And the next step was take it to city headquarters, Baltimore City headquarters. We didn't even get to them filling it out because they shut down the process.
Mm. Didn't even give you a opportunity to even do
No,
that to see if it would get approved by the school system and everything.
right,
Man, I just want to cuss because that is freaking crazy when you have the donor.
right.
Mm.
Willing and able donor. And then you gotta wonder though, when you hear stuff like this, I wonder if anybody on the live have ever went through anything like this or know someone who had a donor who was 18. I would like to know that.
Oh, absolutely. If anyone's watching this show or if you know anyone, as Tracy mentioned, that is in the transplant process that had a donor 18 or over that was willing to donate and some hiccup down the line came, either they wanted them to finish school or do something that really didn't sound right because
Mm-hmm.
of this, please reach out to Tracy, Tittle, or myself because
Mm-hmm.
we want to know. I mean, we know that this doesn't happen all across the United States.
Yeah, I would like to know their process.
And
What
if
is so
anybody's
different? What's
part
so
of,
different with our process here? I don't know.
sure, sure. And anybody, if anyone knows anyone that works with I guess, the transplant consortium or that's the procurement centers, if anyone can speak on this, I mean, it would be great to know why all of a sudden that the transplant team would just shut down Tracy's son from finishing the process because they want him to finish high school when they could have let her know that in the beginning and
Right.
they could have started somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. I he did the questionnaire for the other hospital that we're looking to go to, and their questionnaire was very similar to university. And again, it's nothing on there with a clause that say if 18 or 19, and I guess 19 or 20 in high school, and you got 20-year-olds in high school
Mm-hmm.
still,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to shut them down too. They're 20 years old. But it's nowhere in their policy that states the legality got to be completion of high school. So you wouldn't take a kidney from a person who dropped out of high school at 20 years old. That's another question. You see
It
what I'm
is.
saying? What if you dropped out of school? You didn't finish high school, but you want to do this transplant for a person that needs a transplant. Are you going to say that because you didn't complete high school, we can't do a transplant? You see what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's a lot of questions and I have no answers.
Absolutely. So, Tracy, as we come down to our show, what would you like people to know about this? Oh, I know you mentioned, find out all the situation, before testing. But what would you say that to people who may be in this process or even watching this and had a transplant and didn't go through this? What would you want them to know about this process that you're going through as a kidney patient?
I would say don't give up. Organ donation save lives. That is my motto, because if I didn't get an organ, I wouldn't be here sitting down talking to you about kidney disease. And, I know there are a lot of myths about donating an organ. And when I say myth, they're crazy. Some of the reasons why I hear I am not an organ donor, I'm not registered as an organ donor, is because am I going to be able to have kids afterwards? Sure, you can. I had my first one 5 years after my transplant, young and healthy. There's nothing wrong with that. Am I going to be out of work for a whole month? No, that's a myth also. You probably might be out a couple of days to a week, if that long. I don't know. I just need answers and why, they shut us down like this.
Yeah.
This was a punch in the gut, like I told the coordinator. This was a punch in the gut.
Hmm.
We didn't see this coming at all.
And there's no way you can write the transplant. I mean, the surgeon or whoever.
I called to get the surgeon email address. The person on the phone said to me, "We are not at liberty to give out his address."
That's ridiculous.
So I said, "Okay, no problem. Thank you."
Mm, mm,
If
mm.
I can't write to him, I can't get his email address. It's real bad. It's terrible.
It is.
It is terrible
So,
because he has the say so. Do I answer or don't answer? But I would think that he would want to hear from the recipient. No, it wasn't about me. It was about my donor.
mm, mm, mm.
Yeah.
So also, Jared Brown, again, host of the Warriors Quest, he would like to have you as a guest on his show as well, if you're up to it.
Okay.
Yeah,
No
he would
problem.
probably get with you on a date. But yeah, Tracy, we got to find some answers because this is not right at all. I mean, you hear all these stories on Facebook about people getting transplants, and when you have a willing participant who is your son, 18, and wants to donate to his mom and go through the process just to hear that they want to wait till the summertime, like you said, I mean, we don't know how many days God is allowing us to be on this planet, but um, you don't have the summer to wait. Like you said, what about the recipient and what you go through day in and day out with dialysis? So we got to find some answers because I'm sure that you're not the only person that been through something as crazy as this that has to wait for a transplant when you had a donor.
Correct.
It has to be, like you said, other people out there that may have similar experience or something that may be um, the same.
It has to be. I don't think I'm the first. I can't believe that I would have been the first to have heard this,
Hmm.
because it's like I said, it's no law, it's nowhere in the questionnaire. You gotta get the first thing they let you do is the donor has to do a questionnaire, and they get all the medical history. You get, based on the person weight and height. They shut my daughter down when she got tested. She didn't even pass the questionnaire. They said, we would like for you to lose 5 pounds.
Mm.
2 years ago, my daughter wanted to do a transplant when she turned 18. And she couldn't even get through the questionnaire because of a stupid, what's your weight? What's your height? Based on her weight and based on her height, that was it. She didn't even go get the first tube of blood tested to see what's your blood type. She didn't even pass to that stage. 5 pounds they
That's
wanted her to
ridiculous.
lose.
I've known people who weighed um, a lot of weight and was on the transplant list.
You see, but she was my donor.
No, I understand that, but I'm just
Yeah,
saying people, they want people who are recipients sometime to lose weight as well, depending on their weight. Again, these are just some criteria that I've heard from people at different centers, and I mean that's not the case always, but again, when you have these different criteria and everything is not the same on these questionnaires, then it it becomes an issue.
yeah, yeah.
So Tracy, I mean, I really appreciate you coming on the show tonight and discussing your story, and and definitely pray that Georgetown is the hospital. I mean, I'm sorry, you said GW, right? Is it GW or
Yeah,
Georgetown?
Georgetown.
Oh, okay. That Georgetown is the right hospital for you and your son to have this transplant.
Yeah, I'm praying too.
So, anybody you'd like to say hello to, or any last words before we finish the show? Huh? Hello?
Yes.
Oh, any last words you want to part with before we end the show?
Just get all your facts. Get all the facts straight before you get let down.
Right, right. All right, Tracy. Well, thanks for coming on Smashing Kidney Disease. We definitely look forward to seeing you on Warriors Quest with Jared A. Brown. And again, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Take care, Tracy. I'll talk
You
with you
too.
soon.
Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye bye. So, as you see, transplant is not as cut and dry as they speak about, especially for a lot of people, mainly blacks. It's not. This should never happen. This should have never happened. Going to take her and her son through this process, and then at the last minute, going to say, we think you should wait for the summer for him to finish school. Now, if you was in that situation, how would you feel? How would you feel? You have a donor, you went through testing, you ready to go, and then some doctor, some prick makes a decision, and his little goonies um, agree with him that her son should wait till after high school or wait till he graduate to donate. Who in the hell gives them that right to know what her son or what she's going through? That's why I hate these damn doctors that walk around like prima donnas and their whole transplant goonies, the staff that works for them. They don't want to even give out the information to her so she could write a letter to find out, to get her questions answered. Yeah. So that's why we do what we do, to let people know that this is not cut and dry for a lot of people. So it was great to be back on the air. And oh yeah, I post something today. This week, I guess, is Dallas's Technician Week. Now, during this week, The units give out or give the text food, lunch, but a lot of these lunches are chicken wings, pizza, and other unhealthy food that make this ridiculous in itself. What you need to be advocating for during this week is higher pay. Higher pay because of the work that you do, the long hours that you're on your feet, and the work that you do. That's not taken lightly when you have someone's life in your hands. And the way you appreciate it is with pizza and chicken wings. Something's wrong with this system. Join me tomorrow for a special broadcast of Urban Health Outreach Media, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, USA, right here on the Urban Health Outreach Media Network Facebook page. Until then, stay woke, because if you're asleep, you may just miss something. Thank you. God bless and good night.